Across Australia, there's about 120,000 ABNs being registered a month.
Every single month.
Every single month.
120,000 new ABNs.
New ABNs. And
that
about
is extraordinary for our population.
100%, and 30 to 35,000 companies.
Yeah.
So going into that more serious
more
structure
not just a
as
sole
well.
trader, but proper corporate. That's it. I find that astounding.
I remember thinking, I was like, is this just what it's like, right? You start a business and someone wants to buy it, it takes off, you have immediate success and you just run with it. I was very ambitious at that point, wanting to basically, I wanted to run the show. I wanted to, lead the search programs, lead the content programs. I wanted to take on all these different things I didn't have access to doing in my day-to-day. So I just started doing things on the side. So setting up online businesses. One of my first ventures into that was I created it still exists, the largest non-official Facebook community for South Park fans.
Whereas in Australia, that is just not the case. You can be undercut on price. They can even have a better service. If they have a really strong relationship with you, they will stick with you. The loyalty around people and how much a recommendation means more. Like you said, if someone that they know recommends someone and yet they've got a company here that no one's recommended, but that is actually a better deal, they'll go with that one 90% of the time.
I'm just going to wait and see what happens. We're going to cut back. There were a lot of layoffs that happened in that time. We said, we actually think we should be doubling down here and maybe we'll live to regret it. But we actually think this is maybe one of those really pivotal moments.
Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Glad to sit you down finally. Obviously, we've been working together as businesses for a little while, but never sat you in the hot seat right there. So I'm excited to go through, because a lot of the companies we have on are a lot earlier stage. Now, you've kind of gone through that journey, come out the other side, and you're essentially a scale-up. And I think it's really interesting thing about scale-ups, totally different challenges to what you have as startups, and we tend to feature a lot of startups. So I think our audience will enjoy hearing your story. But also, your personal story coming through what were tech startups too as well. You worked with Tom Waterhouse, who's also been on the show. You're at General Assembly. These are household names. So I think it'd be great just to sort of hear how you ended up starting Lawpath, what made you do that, having come from a digital marketing background, right? Yep. Not a legal background. And what's it like working in a legal tech when you're not a lawyer? But let's get into that. So give us a quick overview, not too detailed, but before you sort of got into digital marketing, you went to school, you went to uni, you came out of uni as a marketer?
Yeah, my first role, I was in marketing for a tech startup called Spritz. That was really my first office job.
I remember that name. What was that startup?
Group buying company. So it was
That's
the first,
right.
Yeah, the first Groupon equivalent here in Australia. So
it was Double E, right?
Yes.
Yes, I remember it.
Yeah, so that was in 2010. I was still in university, and they had really a meteoric rise. I didn't have a great kind of grasp on what the startup ecosystem was.
Well, there wasn't one then, really.
No, I wasn't buying anything online. It wasn't, something that was really a mainstream behavior at that point. And then it just took off. I remember I joined in August. Basically, every month was huge. Doubling growth. They had a story go out in a current affair in, I believe, October or November. Website broke. Everything was down. Just the demand. That gives you kind of a sense of the times of what
back
that was.
Back in the day when websites just fell over and it took them weeks to get them back. It wasn't like, it's down for an hour. And everyone's like, how can it be an hour? Now we're talking weeks, right?
Yeah. So from joining, about 6 months into that, they were acquired by Yahoo 7, $40 million acquisition.
The fact that Yahoo 7 could afford to acquire anyone shows you how long ago it was.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember thinking, I was like, is this just what it's like, right? You start a business and someone wants to buy it, it takes off, you have immediate success and you just run with it. And for me, it was just really opened my eyes to a whole ecosystem that I hadn't thought too much about. For me, it was just trying to get my foot in the door, having done an advertising degree and still in the back half of that and thinking, wow, there's this whole world out there of entrepreneurship. And to be honest, I really just caught the bug from there.
It's an easy bug to catch when you're on a journey like that as well. Yeah. It's a very positive journey. So you stayed at Yahoo for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, what was that like? Like you're coming from a startup, like you said, probably very little structure. You're going double, and then you go into what was a massive business with lots of structure. And I don't know how red tapey was. I don't think it was too bad, but it was a big organization. Was it a shock?
It was a bit of a change. Yeah, it took a bit of time. It I've learned this over the years, but I remember them saying, look, nothing will change.
They always say that. Everyone says that.
Yep. We'll acquire you and you'll still stay the same. Your character will still be in there. But bit by bit, there were changes that took place around, the wording that we could use. If we were running a promotion, we had to get sign off from legal. So they started to add a little bit more bureaucracy to the process that slowed us down a tad.
You know what? There's a podcast in that. We could call the podcast Nothing Will Change, and then we'll just interview people who've had shocking stories of acquisitions. I think that would make an awesome show. Anyway, I'm digressing. So how long did you stay there before you decided to move on?
About 2 years.
2 years. And is that did you go to Tom after that?
I worked, with Tom after that.
So how did you end up meeting Tom? Because obviously that was when he went online, right? He'd done his bookie business and he went online. He had that big advertising campaign, which I'm assuming you were involved with.
Yeah, I was in his CRM retention team. So I was much more on the side of, I guess, kind of like the loyalty programs that they ran and reactivating of clients. For me, leaving Spritz and Yahoo, I was looking to say what was the next kind of the industry that I wanted to go in, where they felt like there were people working in the industry that were probably a little bit of a level up from what was existing in the industry right now. And there were two names that kept popping up. It was online dating or online gaming. And I went and applied for a role at eHarmony and thought it wasn't quite for me at that point. So again, another name that
it's still going, I believe.
I think still going pretty well as well. But I gravitated more. I love sports, so it felt like more of the environment that I wanted to go into at that point. So it was another great ride. It was a startup, but it was a different type of a startup. It's a family business as well, so the dynamic was slightly different.
And Tom is very, I've met Tom numerous times. He's very particular. He's very precise. He's very thoughtful about everything. He's not a gung-ho kind of founder that just goes out there. Everything he does is very, very purposeful. That would translate into the business.
100%. It was a very different thought process to what we had at Spritz, which was basically put something out and we'll just see how it goes. Yeah. It was very, very thoughtful on the colors and basically layout, structures, everything. There was real thought that went into every part of the process. I remember the first day we sat down, we went through basically like a half day of like what the brand is, what our value propositions are, and at Spritz we had none of that. It was very, very different.
And that scaled pretty well, right?
Yeah. They did well. They got. I left before they did an acquisition with William Hill, but I know there was a really
massive acquisition.
Yeah.
And then he went as CEO, didn't he? It's William Hill.
He did.
Yeah. And so where'd you go from Tom?
I worked at Getty Images as a marketing contractor from there. So I spent.
That was a monopoly. That was.
Yeah. So I spent about 18 months there, and that was. It was quite a fun role, to be honest, in a lot of respects. I'd gone from two companies where they just had very big budgets to where in Getty we were a small team. And I learned a lot in what we had at Getty of kind of doing things with the assets you've got under your control. So for them, it was, their content, how we would build partnerships and kind of leveraging that content. So it was able to do a lot without actually having to spend a lot of budget. And I think that really held me in good stead for then kind of the next parts of the journey into startup land.
Taught you how to not just blow cash.
Basically. Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
I think sometimes it's really, really important, and we'll come on to your funding in a minute, that you've had that, because you do see sometimes first-time founders and they reach a certain level and they get a big level of funding and then everything just goes to shit because they lose their ability to solve problems. They lose their ability to try and do things in a way that's effective. They just go, bang, let's just go for it. We've made it. And that often is their downfall. So I would imagine having that was a great experience for you.
Yeah.
How did you end up getting involved in Lawpath?
So during the time I was with Getty, one thing that working in a global org is you kind of a little bit, especially from a marketing sense, you can be a little bit kind of pigeonholed into what you can do. So I was very ambitious at that point, wanting to I wanted to run the show. I wanted to lead the search programs, lead the content programs. I wanted to take on all these different things I didn't have access to doing in my day to day. So I just started doing things on the side. So setting up online businesses. One of my first ventures into that was I created it still exists, the largest non-official Facebook community for South Park fans.
Oh, really? What was it called?
Just classic South Park moments. So we got 250,000 people who followed that.
Wow.
And I was generating hundreds of thousands of views to a website covered in ads and writing, BuzzFeed style listicles. And so was doing a bunch of these things, doing a few things with friends. And it kind of got to me to a point where I'd set up a couple of companies in this process. So I bought a small app at a different point as well. And we're doing a few different things. And everything that came into actually then setting up the company, and when we started going down the kind of the official paperwork route, the legal share allocations, it always took a lot of, for me, the air out of the balloon in a lot of respects. It was really the part it's like, oh, okay, this should be the fun part, but it feels like this is the part now where we're losing a lot of the momentum of this idea that we'd started. So I was still in contact with a number of people I worked with back in the Spritz days, and one of them, Damien, ended up being one of our co-founders at Lawpath. And so he had been talking to a number of people in the industry about saying, look, in the States, there's this great concept of really being able to disrupt the legal industry in the same way that technology has come in and disrupted things like insurance, sales with someone like Salesforce. Xero was the darling of the time. So what could we do in the legal state where it basically felt like a market that really hadn't been untapped but was really ripe for disruption?
So it was the age-old, I've got a problem, this is annoying, I don't like this, I'm going to make a better way of doing it. Simple as that.
Yeah, and in a lot of respects, it wasn't one of those ones where I just suddenly had this epiphany and the idea came to me. In a lot of respects, the idea had been a little bit developed, and I was thinking, actually, you know what, there's a massive opportunity here. And if we can be part of, I guess, the change of an industry, that's something I definitely, really want to hitch my wagon.
And you most definitely have. So how long ago was that now?
About 11 years now.
Is it 11?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's been a journey. Most people would be very aware of what you do, but just in case someone isn't in the legal tech world, give me your quick elevator pitch of what Lawpath is today, because it's obviously evolved a lot from how it started.
Yeah, so where we sit now is we're effectively a business support platform for Aussie small businesses, and that covers everything from the starting points of running a business, so doing your formation of your company, all the way through to your legal contracts, and really being able to then also be able to kind of combine the technology of actually being able to handle a lot of the compliance areas yourself, with overlaying that with on-demand expertise. So we can connect you up with lawyers and accountants, as simple as being able to book a consultation on a platform and get access to real-time support. And so that's been something that, has really progressed from being something where initially we were very much in just the legal side of things, now really, evolving that into, we can help with tax returns and BAS lodgements, asset compliance, really being able to help that whole kind of back office for the small business.
And it's not priced in 6-minute increments.
No, definitely not. That was one of the things we said we would never bill on time.
Yeah, and it's an awful thing to do. I just hate it. It's just a horrible way. I know when I'm on the phone to a lawyer that is, I've sold some companies and gone through law firms like that, and you're just thinking, oh my God, this phone call's so long. This is going to cost me a fortune. Or this meeting's gone for hours. They're bringing you in coffee and tea. And you think, I know why you're doing that. Look, it's been revolutionary. Now, I read a stat that you are over 600,000 customers on your platform, which is wild. How many do you want to get to? How many are there? Do you even know? You probably have an idea. You probably know more than I do.
Yeah, it's one of those areas where I think in a lot of respects, there's a misconception of how many businesses there are in Australia by the purest definition of what a business is. So you look at the ABS, Australian Bureau of Statistics, they'll tell you there's 2.7 million businesses in Australia. What that's defined as is having registered an ABN, but then also being GST registered. Now, to be GST registered, as many people would know, you've got to be making $75,000 in turnover in a year, which for a lot of businesses, they don't get to that point, especially in the early days of starting a business. There's actually 9 million ABNs that are active in Australia.
That's a big leap from 2.7.
Huge discrepancy. And one of the things that we're digging into more and more is these new businesses and also these businesses that are starting out as things like side hustles.
Side hustles probably will not, the most of them would be under 75 for a couple of years, you'd think.
100%. Right? So as people are starting to look to supplement their income, they're looking at different streams of being able to do so. And where we really help is in, helping those new businesses from that idea to then actually being able to build something without all the prohibitive costs that come with it. So for us, there's this huge opportunity that as we explored it more, it wasn't this 2.7 million market here. It was significantly bigger.
Yeah, because if it's 2.7 and you've got 600,000, that's a massive slice of the world you've got there. And so I heard your target's $1 million. Got any ideas on the length of time it'll take to get there? Like how quickly are you acquiring quicker now?
We're aiming to get there by 2030, so we're very much on track.
You're on track. Now, this year's been a massive, massive year for you. Let's talk about your investment because, lots of people get funding. Lots of people get Series A. Lots of people raise $1 million. You've got $10 million out of Westpac, which is an extraordinary achievement for a tech startup. They're not a law firm. They're not an accounting firm. They're a bank. So why did that happen? Why did that come? Is it something you sought out? And what are you going to do with it? Hopefully you're not going to spend it all on big offices and like we talked about earlier, just splurge it. So tell me firstly, how did that come about?
Yeah, so we'd been working with Westpac for a number of years on different parts of strategic partnerships. And basically they saw in us, because of our strength in being able to register new businesses, they saw that as an opportunity to be able to then have new businesses be able to then set up new business bank accounts.
Yep.
And so there was a natural fit that we felt like if we can offer a really strong offering to their members that they would then want to refer on from their business bank accounts into
Did you go to them or did they come to you at the very, very beginning?
It was actually through another partner that we had. So some work that we were doing with MYOB that actually came and they were working with MYOB. And one of the things that I've been really amazed by is that the partner ecosystem, once you have one partner they're working with, it's very easy for them to say, well, you actually then solve this void or you can help with this strategic priority that we have over here.
The ecosystem stuff.
It's amazing, really. And so it really started from there and saying, well, there's an opportunity to work together here in a partnership level. They were happy with the early results of what we were doing there. And so they said, is there a way that we can look to extend this out where we can, provide you with some growth capital to be able to do a lot of this faster and you're able to then hit the goals that you need as a business and it helps us as well.
So are they invested into your cap table or was it a fund or was it a program? Was it a corporate? How's that sort of structured in the end and how did that come about?
So they are an equity shareholder.
They just came in. Okay, cool. Yeah. Amazing. And so the plans with that money, that's a big chunk of money. You've probably got a person on your cap table that is not an individual, which is nice. But also from a strategic point of view, the opportunities are endless, right? Now they're really interested in how well you do. Where are you going with this now? Like, what's the purpose of that money? You said you want to grow and you want to take on more. In your heads, what are you going to use that money for?
Yeah, so it's about 10 months in at this point. Yep. So we've already kind of put a bit of that capital to work. And for us, probably the biggest opportunity came in that formation space. We was this year alone, we're looking at roughly about 25% year-on-year increase in new business formations in Australia.
How many are you doing a month?
So we're doing, across Australia, there's about 120,000 ABNs being registered a month.
Every single month.
Every single month.
120,000 new ABNs.
New ABNs. And
that is extraordinary for our population.
100%. And 30 to 35,000 companies. Yeah. So going into that more serious structure
not just a sole trader, but proper corporate. I find that astounding. I remember way back when we started Nudge, we thought, we should get in with the ABS and we should just approach everyone who registers an ABN. I'm glad we didn't go down that route because we wouldn't have had time to do anything else. I'm stunned at that. That's amazing. And the way that you're working with those people, is it all online now? Is there a high human touch to it? When you're doing your advice, again, is there like a frequently asked questions or is it speaking to an individual lawyer? Tell me how it's sort of structured internally.
Yeah, so our business model works in a way where it's a little bit of a hybrid way that we found is the sweet spot for us. Yep. So in a lot of respects, you can think about the top of funnel and the acquisition engine for us being very tech driven and self-service. One of our big values is around accessibility and just making sure that whenever you need to do something, you can, if you just decide, hey, I'm at the pub with a friend and you decide, I want to start a business, let's get it going, you can do that on your phone. Right. We wanted to make it as easy as possible to be able to do that, create contracts, handle a lot of those pieces that really bring people into our ecosystem. We felt was really important that was always tech driven. But one of the things that I probably didn't realize early doors as powerful as it was going to be was the element of service and how much we trust just in people and the importance of that. As an economy, we are we are very much a broker economy. We use people to help us in so many different ways. And statistics that blew my mind recently that I saw was that with Australian small businesses, the ATO reported this, that 95% use someone to actually handle their tax. Yep. So somebody who's actually going through and doing that on their behalf.
As opposed to having an internal person do it. Is that what you mean?
Internal, or do it themselves. Yeah.
I have found, obviously I moved here from London a long time ago now, but I think the biggest thing that I noticed here coming from the UK or London specifically was that, and I'm assuming it's the same in the US, but in London, you can have an amazing relationship with a client. Amazing. But if someone undercuts you on price, they'll drop you like that. Whereas in Australia, that is just not the case. You can be undercut on price. They can even have a better service. If they have a really strong relationship with you, they will stick with you. The loyalty around people and how much a recommendation means more. Like you said, if someone that they know recommends someone and yet they've got a company here that no one's recommended, but that is actually a better deal, they'll go with that one 90% of the time. It must just be something ingrained in the culture here. It's a really interesting, and it hasn't changed at all. I thought as with the world matured and things changed, I would have thought it's changed, but it's not changed at all, which is good for you, I guess. Tell me, you've been around 10 years, so you've been through quite a lot of change. Obviously, people weren't doing legal stuff online. We had COVID, which would have probably benefited you to some degree. What are the biggest changes you've seen in customer behavior during that time?
COVID was a huge catalyst. Before COVID, it was really challenging to get people to interact online. And to the point you made there on price, we were 90% cheaper than any other solution that was out there. And I remember thinking, why aren't people just signing up in droves in the early days? Social proof became a massive element of what we really needed to drive, was actually just showing other businesses using us, as simple as that sounds to do. But that was a really important component. But COVID really drove, a big shift in behavior, because I remember we actually had a meeting with one of our representatives at Google who said, hey, just so you know, people looking around legal services, legal documents, it is really, really jumping up these last couple of months as we went into lockdown.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking at the time, everyone was stopping with their advertising, and their go-to-market was basically, we're just going to hold. We're going to
we're just going to wait and see.
We're just going to wait and see what happens. We're going to cut back. There were a lot of layoffs that happened in that time. We said, we actually think we should be doubling down here, and maybe we'll live to regret it. But we actually think this is maybe one of those really pivotal moments for us as a business. And we actually, the most recent raise we did prior to Westpac was during that period as well, and came off huge growth that we had during those COVID days, where people were needing to still interact with lawyers and being able to get that support, but they were much more open to doing it in different ways.
I think also people wanted to tighten up the shop. And law and legal documents and contracts is one of those things that often, when it's busy and it's good times, it just sort of falls by the wayside and worries about later. And I guess when it's all like the end of the world, it's like we really need to make sure we've got everything done properly. So you kind of had a bit of a double whammy. And if you're doubling down with your marketing and advertising and no one else is, you've just got, it's just like an open road, right? This just would have been fantastic. So tell me, for you guys, did that change the way you worked, or were you already so evolved as a startup in terms of being online, dealing online? Probably, I don't know whether you had people in the office or not. I know you have sort of hybrid now, but did it affect you guys at all, or was it just you were already so well prepared for that kind of event?
We weren't well prepared. We were not. I'd be lying if I said we had a really good system in place for being able to deal with remote work at that point. It was just new to us. It wasn't at that point. We just thought work was, you'd work in an office. We were very much kind of compartmentalizing work and play, and it was just, you came to the office, you worked. That was a really big shift for us. I think in a lot of respects, it was a really good shift, because it has allowed us to, I guess, kind of appreciate the way of being able to get a balance in that. And I think for myself and my co-founder Dom, also realizing that there's benefits for us in that environment as well, and being able to not have people tapping us on the shoulder every second of every day, and actually being able to get some stuff done versus doing it in the early hours of the morning.
Yes, I know that well. Tell me, you wanted to be in charge, you wanted to be the founder, you have been now for some time. What's been the thing that was way easier than you thought? And what's been the thing that was just so much harder? And I'm not talking about something that you thought was hard that was hard. I'm talking about something that you thought probably wouldn't be too much of a whatever, and it's been so difficult, and then the opposite of that.
Yeah, good question. Easier, I think that probably being able to, I guess, kind of create your own ethos when it comes to leadership and being able to actually have people follow you and build a bit of an operating system that you can work in towards that. And you kind of work out that I don't need to be, a Churchillian leader, or I have to really bring my own standards and my own set of beliefs to what I believe a leader should be. And having, there is in a lot of respects, you do have that, that kind of identity crisis of, am I really cut out to being able to do this at different points? And actually then being able to, put something into place, put a plan in there where you're saying, I actually feel like I can belong in here and I can actually do that well. So I think that that's just something that when you're thrust into that environment, you get the opportunity, you take that, people can follow. But I think one of the parts of that I really learned is you've just got to be true to who you are with that. Remember the early days, I would look at, every TED talk, and I'd, try so much to just be like all of the other leaders that I saw that had been successful. And there's so much contradictory advice, and you've got to do it yourself. You've got to work out a way that works for you and a standard that works for how you need to operate. On the what's harder, I think that as you grow, and I think it's a good point that you started with, that I actually found it a lot harder to really operate as a business as you grow versus what you did in the early days, because really when you're in the early days, you're accountable to yourself in a lot of respects, right? And you know the capabilities that you've got. I came into this as quite technical and being able to execute a quite high click, but then being able to build in your standard operating procedures in a way that then people can follow, and being able to then really make it feel like you can exponentially be able to grow without you having to be involved in every single point. You would just you think that you just hire people and it all looks after itself, but there's a lot more to it than that.
How have you gone with the letting go part? Like, I think any founder, particularly when it's their first one, struggles going from literally being across everything because you have to be, to not being across everything because actually you're a pain in the ass and you're the one that's hindering things. How did you find that transition, that startup to scale up, if you like, when you make that leap from just being across everything to no, I've got to let them do those things?
For me, it was actually, I was terrible at it, and I'm still not amazing at it, but I'm a lot better than I was. I think a big change for me was when I had my first child, or my wife had our first child. He arrived a little bit early. He arrived a couple of weeks before we thought he was going to come.
That's a shock.
It was a little bit of like all right, I'm going to get things ready, and I'm going to prepare out a little bit of a handover of where things sit.
Too, don't they?
And usually one of our biggest weeks of the year is the last week of November, where it just tends we often run sale periods. So super busy. Black Friday seems to work in our space as well as it does in any other e-commerce brand. So, and so he arrived on the Monday, and I remember just being like, oh, I do not have things set out at the office to be able to really deal with this, and freaked out a little bit. I think all the management around me did as well, but things just worked themselves out. There were a couple of mistakes, but I think a big part of that was the people learn by the mistakes. They take ownership when they know that there isn't the support, the kind of, the backstop of sorts who can solve for these things when things are going to go, with that extra little piece. And I think that's, for me, in a lot of respects, built in, knowing that you've got to let people do this and learn from the mistakes. So it was a real, baptism of fire to do that, but I'm glad it happened in the end.
Have you found that I think when it's your first business or your only business, when things go wrong, it can be quite, not overwhelming is the wrong word. I think it can be, you feel it yourself. You feel like your personal failure, right? And it's often not that. And you feel it's the end of the world. And a lot of those things really aren't the end of the world. And you get through them like you get through everything in life. But I think and you learn that as a human being as you're growing up, right? But I think, your first relationship ends and you think you're never going to fall in love again, all that kind of stuff. But I think with business, because it affects so many other people, it hits you a lot harder. Did you find that you took it really personally, and do you still, or have you sort of matured from that? Because personally, I don't know how many years ago, let's not talk about it. I still feel like I've been stabbed when things go wrong and feel like it's all my fault. I just can't seem to lose that personal connection to it. I'm interested to know how you've gone with that, because 11 years is a big stint. There would be a lot of ups and downs.
100%. I think the things that I would have really lost sleep over in the first couple of years, I would absolutely not lose sleep over now. I guess the gravitas of when dealing with these things. And I think it builds a lot of grit in you in a lot of respects, just knowing the sun will come up in the morning. Things are going to be okay. If there has been an issue, we can work our way through that as well. I got to be honest, I feel pretty good about it these days, and being able to know that we've got the right people in place, the right level of accountability and ownership, that those things do really look after themselves. So it feels like it's less of those, just like those sharp stabs that you might get, more maybe a death by 1,000 cuts, where you feel like there's been maybe a couple of like subsequent things that have happened where there's maybe been a systemic failure on top that they hurt a lot and they feel longer. So it's probably less of the short, sharp pieces and things maybe that are a little bit more kind of blown out.
How have you gone with your co-founder? Because 11 years is a long time. Co-founders traditionally either make it or don't make it, right? And obviously, I think you've proven the test of time. I think once you get past about 5-6 years, usually if you get to that level. What I've found interesting with my co-founders in the past is that I've naturally paired with someone who's the opposite of me, which is fantastic at the beginning. But then when you hit a certain level of success, you think so differently, you disagree in the way the business should go forwards. I'm sure there's been times where you've had that. There must have been where you haven't necessarily agreed. How have you kind of got, and I asked this question because a lot of people ask me this question, how have you got through that? Because you seem to have a very healthy relationship.
We do have an extremely healthy relationship.
So how have you dealt with that?
We are very similar in a lot of respects.
Interesting.
We I think maybe in some ways we're a little bit too similar in like, I guess.
Well, evidently not.
Well, we would both say we struggle with letting go, as an example. Like we're probably in the way that we like to operate, we like to be in the detail at different points, probably more than we should.
Yeah.
I've found with Dom, I've never met anyone with the grit that he has. He will show up each and every day with a smile on his face. He would have Lord knows how much in the way of annual leave, sick leave, because he just never takes a day off. He is incredibly just consistent. And he's taught me a lot about, I'm more of a yo-yo personality of, I have my good days, I have my not so good days, but knowing just that level of the consistency that he brings to that. I remember thinking in the early days, I was like, how does this guy do it? Like, how does he actually just every day, nothing seems to get to him? And I think in a lot of respects, he does a really great job of just being able to compartmentalize again what he brings to his work.
Gets to him, he just doesn't let you know.
That's right.
Yeah.
And his ability to do that, it's probably come to a point now where I think we probably feel it a little bit himself, but I definitely feel it as him. I never want to let him down. And I know the level of consistency and the standard that he wants to drive, that we just really want to, I guess, in a lot of respects, just do it in a way that we're in this together. We know that in our own areas, we do a good job, I feel, of being able to say, you're looking after this. I'm not going to, come in and helicopter things there. But if there is something I feel like I need to call out, I'll have a chat to you about it and do it through the right type of a process. So I think just over time, we've built that. And I think probably the other thing as well is having a healthy out of work relationship as well.
Do you socialize outside of work?
Probably the main thing is that we go to the gym together. So
I was going to say, do you build time in, like it's any relationship, right? Whether it be a marriage, whether it be a friendship, whether it be a business partnership, having time together that's not about solving a problem is so important.
And look, we talk about work a lot when we're working out, but at the same time, it's different. It's different. It's in a bit of a different environment. And I think that's just such an important thing, that it's just not all I'm with this person just to work, and I don't have that relationship outside of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's fantastic. I think you hit the nail on the head there, and is that having that time. The gym is the perfect way to do that. Walking, whatever it might be. We had someone on the show the other day who they go for swims together. That kind of thing. I think it gives you an opportunity to bring something up if it's bothering you. And I'm assuming you've had scenarios where someone has done something that has bothered the other. And you're safe enough in your relationship that you can do that without worrying about getting upset. How do you do that with staff? Because it's another one of the things. Like you talked about leadership, getting around your style of leadership. You don't have to be like someone else. Communication in managing and leading, as you would know, is probably the most important thing. Dealing with issues as soon as they come up is the one thing I was so bad at. I was Mr. Stickhead in the sand in all of my early companies. I'm not now. I'm just straight on it. But it took me a long time to do that because I didn't love confrontation. Now I don't relish it, but it doesn't bother me one iota. Has that been something that, because a lot of people struggle with that at the beginning, is that something that you found hard? Was it something that came naturally to you? Because that can be such a key component in success.
Yeah, I had really good, I think I look back to, I had really good relationships with my managers in, all the office jobs that I had. And I always thought to myself, I wanted to be liked in the same way that I admired and I liked them. And it wasn't just, again, like a professional relationship, but like, we would go to dinner together, we go to drinks together. Yep. And so I probably came into things being like, I want to be the cool boss, I want to be the one that everyone likes. And like everyone goes out and they're like, oh, he's great to work with. I love my boss. He's so cool, when they're telling their friends on the weekend what they get up to. And
he's the best boss ever.
And I kind of look back at those early years of being like, I wasn't confrontational in the same way that you mentioned. I would more kind of lean to, I want to create like an environment where people are happy and they're comfortable, and they're working hard because they're motivated to do so. And I think, again, maybe it was having kids, but I think that was a big change. I was like, I don't really care what people think about me anymore. Like if I need to say what I need to say, I'll be really comfortable in doing so. And I think I'm very big on having a lot of candor in the relationships of my staff. So just making sure that, hey, I'm really comfortable being someone that you can talk to and we can share a joke and we can have a good relationship that's not just all about work, but at the same time, hey, if I think you've done the wrong thing here, I'm just going to tell you, and doesn't mean I'm going to fire you, but it's going to be something that we want to build in a way where, and the way I feel about it, like, is then when you're going in and doing a performance review, the performance review in a lot of respects, those types of things shouldn't come as a shock. It shouldn't be one of those ones. So you hear all the time where people are like, oh, I never knew this. I never knew that you were upset about this, or this was bothering you because it was never brought up in the right environment.
And that is the worst scenario. You see people being let go for something they didn't even know they were doing wrong. I mean, that's a horrible scenario for everyone. So where next? Like 11 years in, arguably probably at your most poignant point of success, where you've encapsulated the business into something that's quite a complete business. Where do you drive from here? Is it growth? Is it overseas? Is it new products? What's in your heads?
We still think there's a lot to do here. And as we mentioned, that the market's big enough here that we feel like we can still make a big
9 million,
impact.
Was it 9 million?
9 million, yep. We really do feel like what we're trying to do in being that support system for small businesses, with having all of those different interwoven parts, we're really unique in the way that where we are positioning that. We want to be able to continue to grow through that. And we think that the best avenue for that is being able to continue to help businesses in that very early embryonic stage of setting up, getting going, and being able to make sure that they've got their right support. Because if they've got their right support, we should be able to then make more of them successful. And one of the things that we've found recently from having a look at the data of the companies that we register is that on average, when you look at 3 years, which is the survival rates that they look on businesses, typical survival rates of a business in Australia is around 51%. Mm-hmm. The businesses with us are around 65%.
Why do you think that is?
Well, we would say we really believe that it's tied to the fact that we help people to be able to just do what they were really intended to do in business. Why? They had that idea at the start of saying, I've got a competitive advantage here. I believe I'm seeing the world in a way that no one else is seeing. I'm going to really capitalize on that.
Yeah.
And that's seldom to be actually, in your books, doing your taxes, looking at your legal contracts, dealing with different disputes. So if we can handle all of those things that go on in the back office of your business and look after that, make sure that you're doing that in an affordable way that's very easy for you to do with not having to deal with multiple stakeholders, multiple touch points, waiting on, long turnaround times. If we can look after all of that under the hood for you, you can get on to doing what you do best.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think if you're you would know, having done capital raising, it's a huge distraction and it can often cause all sorts of problems. And if you're not able to do your job because you're caught up doing accounting or BASs or ADOs or calculating or all the things that need to be done, all the compliance, it affects your ability to actually make revenue. And if you can't make revenue, you've got no cash flow, and you can't get cash flow, you're dead. And I think, you're freeing people up to do what they're good at, basically.
Absolutely.
And in terms of I guess the product suite that you have, is that going to expand? I mean, it seems pretty comprehensive for what you've got now. I mean, that's kind of what you've done this year, right?
Yeah. AI is becoming a bigger component of that product suite, and a lot of what we can deliver through humans and practitioners. We feel that there's probably going to be a base level of support that can be offered through AI as we're able to train.
Have you trialed anything yet?
Yeah. So we have AI interwoven into our document builder so that it can pull in and give you insights. So you pull a contract in, it will tell you this is a bit of a red flag. This is something that's a little bit, against what the market would typically do here. This could be an unfair term. So we're able to pull those in and give people those insights and generate that for them. And the other thing that really helps with is being able to augment things on an advisor side of things. So an advisor has a conversation with somebody, they're able to then be able to very easily decipher what the action points are, what need to happen from the other side of that as well, and really be able to speed up those workflows. And if we can build it more and more into our workflows, we can ultimately still work with people and bring that people element, which we do believe is, forever going to be important, but be able to make sure that we can reach more people with needing less actual staff.
And tell me, you've been around a while. There's been a few others that have popped up. Have you felt competition, or is it just really you just keep powering on and focusing on yourselves?
You know what? I think the same way I mentioned with Don, my co-founder, the grit of being able to just stay at this. I think we, in a lot of respects, as a business, we've embodied that as well. It's been something where we have had a lot of competition pop up at different points. Ultimately, what we see is competition will make a bit of a splash. Someone will come out and they'll be talking about access to justice, access to being able to support small businesses. And ultimately, they find that working with SMB is tough, right? It's a difficult market in where, as I mentioned, a lot of them don't make it. They don't survive. You're constantly having to, top up your acquisition engine because there's people who are going out of business. And what a lot of them end up doing is they end up being software that helps in like practice management and helps on the actual practitioner side of things, because that's where there's a lower kind of, restriction. They feel like it's easier to actually get their foot in the door. So we've just felt that one of the strengths that we've had is, being able to just say we're going to continually just be for SMB, and we've knocked back a lot of different things to work in enterprise and work up market and say we want to be for the little guy. And we feel now we're at a point where that staying power has really helped us.
It's quite hard to do. We've had the same thing with nudging startups. Like, we've been tempted, particularly the same thing. Like, startups, they hire in tranches, right? So you're always having to acquire new customers. And the dream of having larger customers who hire all year is always there. But we've stuck with it. We've had people approach us. It's actually quite a hard thing to do. I think it's absolutely worth it, 100%, and it's obviously paid off. So I salute you for that. Pricing wise, it's quite simple, right? You're a monthly fee, is that right? And they have different tiers based on what you do. It's as simple as that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So most people pay for the year, or they can do quarterly installments as well. But prices start from as low as you can pay $468 for the year.
Yep. Oh gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So that will give you unlimited access to legal contracts throughout the year, all the way up if you're adding in basically every different component of what you do. It gets up to being around the kind of $5,000 mark. But at that point, you've basically got a lawyer on side, you've got an accountant on side, all of your taxes are looked after.
And will that do, like from a legal perspective, you're obviously in corporate law. Does that include things like litigation and M&A and that high level of specification?
Usually what we'll do there is we'll help with the advice of just tell us what the issue is and we'll give you an idea of what the best avenue in there. But
Yep.
there's usually additional costs that then come
So
with assisting on that side.
Would you ever have a conflict situation, which obviously law firms have? Because if you've got 600,000 SMBs, there's a big chance there's a conflict there because SMBs will tend to get in fights with SMBs, right?
Yeah.
Has that come up? Have you had that scenario?
We do have a conflict management
I would have never
solution
thought of
in
that until
place.
just now. That's really interesting.
To be honest, when I would have never thought of it either, and it was one of those things that when someone had mentioned it, when we brought in and was working with the law firm, and that was something that came up, I was like, remember early I was thinking this will never happen. Like we're never going to have two people in all of these businesses that are going to come up, and now it comes up more often than not where we obviously have to deal with that. Yeah.
Well, that's a good sign. I mean, it's not a good sign they're in conflict, but it's a good sign that you've grown to a point where it's not an uncommon thing.
Yeah.
It's so funny. You just wouldn't think of a tech business having a conflict scenario.
Yeah, yeah.
It's amazing. Look, I'm really impressed. Your content you've been pumping out recently, I have loved. You know I'm a lover of content. I think you're doing such a good job, which is obviously your background as well. I think you've really embodied and understand what content can do for a brand. And I think it's probably the most powerful thing right now. So well done on that, just to say.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the future with you. I really am. We'll try, the new thing we're giving us, we're going to try and get everyone back sort of every 18 months. So now we've been going 4 years. We've started to get guests back. And it is the most interesting thing getting someone back 18 months, 2 years later. It's amazing how much people do in that time. So we'll definitely do that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But thank you for coming and just sharing everything with us. And it's a really interesting story. So thank you very much.
Great. Thanks so much for having me, Steve.
Cheers.